边听故事边练听力，我们开始吧。
This is a story about a family named Lynn who lived on an island called Taiwan. A big war had just ended. For many years, people from Japan had ruled Taiwan. Now they were gone. New people from China came to be in charge. At first, many on the island felt a little spark of hope, a feeling that maybe things would be good. The Lin family had a father, and he had 4 sons. The oldest son was Wenheng. He owned a restaurant and worked hard. He felt the weight of his family on his shoulders, but he also felt a happy flutter in his chest because his wife was going to have a baby soon. He hoped for a peaceful life. The second son was far away, lost in the war, and they only spoke of him in hushed, sad tones. The third son, Wenlong, had come back from the war, but the things he saw there had clouded his mind. He was often confused and scared, like a small boat tossed in a stormy sea. The youngest son was Wenqing. When he was a little boy, an illness took his hearing. He could not hear the world, but he saw it very clearly with his eyes. He was a photographer and took pictures of everything, the people, the town, the small moments. He felt things deeply, even if he could not say them out loud. Soon the spark of hope started to fade for many people in Taiwan. The new people in charge were not always kind. They spoke a different way, and sometimes they were greedy and unfair. A shadow of worry began to creep into people's hearts. For the Lin family, trouble started to knock on their door. Wenlong, the brother whose mind was already troubled, got mixed up with some bad men from a place called Shanghai. They did illegal things. Wen Hyung, the oldest, found out. His heart burned with anger and fear for his brother. He might have shouted, his voice tight with worry, "What are you doing? This will bring disaster to us all." Wenlong, lost in his own fog of pain and confusion, didn't seem to understand. Soon, these bad men tricked Wenlong, and he was taken to jail. Inside the cold, dark jail, his mind broke a little more. He was so scared. Wenqing, the quiet photographer, saw all of this. He spent time with his friends. One of them was a thoughtful young man named Hinoi, and Hinoi had a kind sister named Hiromi. They talked about making things better, about hope and fairness. Wenqing couldn't speak with his voice, but with his hands and his gentle eyes, he shared his feelings with Hiromi. A small, warm feeling started to grow between them, like a tiny flower pushing through hard ground. Then one day a terrible storm of anger and sadness swept across the whole island. It started with a small thing, but people's hearts were already full of hurt and frustration with the new rulers. There was shouting and fighting, and many people got hurt. It was a very dark time. Everyone felt a cold knot of fear in their stomachs. Wenqing was in the middle of this chaos. He and his friends were rounded up. He saw things no one should ever see. People being hurt for no reason. Because he could not hear, and because he was a quiet person, they let him go. But what he saw stayed in his heart. A heavy stone. His oldest brother, Wenheng, was always trying to keep the family safe, to be the strong tree in the wind. But one day, trying to sort out a problem with some tough men who wanted to control his business, there was a sudden, terrible fight. "This is my place! You can't just take what is ours!" Wenheng yelled, his voice rough with anger and desperation. But the bad men were cruel. In the middle of the noise and confusion, Wenheng was killed. The strong tree of the Lin family fell. Everyone's heart shattered into a million pieces. Grief washed over them like a cold, dark wave. Wenlong, the third brother, was finally let out of jail. But the jail and all the bad things that happened had broken him completely. He was like a shadow of himself. He started to take bad medicine to forget his pain, and soon he too was gone, lost to the sadness. In the middle of all this darkness, Wenqing and Hiromi found each other. They held on to their love like a small, flickering candle in a storm. They got married in a quiet way, their hearts full of both love and sorrow. Soon, Hiromi had a baby boy. For a little while, holding his son, Wenqing felt a tiny bit of sunshine. But the new rulers were still watching everyone. They were afraid of anyone who didn't agree with them. Hinoe, Hiromi's brave brother, and his friends still believed they could make things better. They hid in the mountains trying to fight back, but the rulers were too strong. One by one, Hinoe and his friends were caught. Sad news came like a cold wind. Hinoe was gone too. Hiromi's heart ached with a deep, quiet pain. Wenqing held her close, his own heart heavy. He knew he had to be strong for her and their little boy. He tried to live a simple life, taking photos, loving his family. He wrote notes to Hiromi because he could not speak. "I am here. For you. For our son," one note might have said. His handwriting careful. Hiromi would read his notes, and her eyes would fill with tears, but also with love. But the shadows were long. One day, the rulers came for Wenqing. There were no angry words, no fight, just a quiet knock, and then they took him away. He looked at Hiromi, his eyes full of a deep, unspoken sadness, a worry for her, and a love that would last forever. He never came back. So, the Lynn family, which was once full of life and brothers, became very small. Only the old father, now bent with age and sorrow, and Hiromi with her young son were left. They lived quietly, carrying a great sadness in their hearts. The days passed, one after another, filled with the memory of those they had lost. Their story is a very sad one, about a time when a city and an island was filled with an unspoken grief. It reminds us how life can change so quickly and how precious love and family are, especially when the world outside is harsh and cold.
你太棒了，你学完了全部内容，你离英语自由又近了一步，下个视频见。